Imagine a world where zombies have taken over and run rampant across the streets, wreaking havoc and eating people wherever they go. That would sound like a living hell to most people, but not this guy, since with how he's living he's already practically a zombie. He lives a constant cycle of work, and tomorrow he's still got to go to work again. It all started 3 years ago when he first landed his dream job. He thought it was going to be all sunshine and rainbows, and it looked like that's what it was going to be. Everyone was nice and cheery, and he even met an absolute stunner, Sorry, on his first day. It looked like everything was coming up for Tando, but reality is often disappointing. That day, after that customary office party, the mood suddenly shifts and the other workers enter drone mode. They stayed up 2 nights in a row at work, and he wasn't allowed to go home until 2 days later. At this time, he clearly realized that the company only considered him as a resource to exploit. The next morning, his enthusiasm for his work had noticeably diminished, but as he considered investing in a college education, he felt compelled to persevere. Although the company boasts of attractive policies like vacation time, which employees are ironically never really encouraged to take advantage of, the reality paints a different picture. There is a common problem of not paying overtime, underpaying workers, and the annoying presence of a boss who seems more childish in his outbursts than authoritative. Who would really pass up such an opportunity? And the icing on the cake is the looming specter of health problems that people easily ignore. As he entered his second year, Tendo found himself struggling with these growing health concerns, only to be rewarded by his boss with another huge workload. The only thing keeping him sane is Sorry and the thought that he'll be able to have a chance with her. But it just keeps getting worse for my dude. Sorry is already freaking the CEO of the company, and there goes the last bit of sanity. Tendo now has no idea why he's still even working there, and he's gone off the deep end. So much so that he walks into traffic hoping to meet Truck Kun, but he has no such luck. He can't get a different job since all the other ones will be just as bad, and if he leaves it'll just be making it worse for the other employees. By the 3rd year, Tendo is really being pushed. It's gotten so bad that he even tries to train Kun just so he won't have to go to work. And this is where he is now. In full-on zombie mode, all he can think about is work now, and everything is in black and white. He wakes up the next morning and has a mini panic attack about not wanting to go to work. He then gets stressed and is about to go to work, but as he drags himself out of the house, he notices that there is a letter in his mailbox. He forgot to pay his parking pass, so he trudges over to the building manager's room to try and explain why he didn't pay it. As he gets to the door, he keeps knocking, but there is no answer. He spots a half-open door and heads in to talk to the building manager, but what he finds is not what he'd normally expect. He sees the building manager neck deep in someone's guts, and that is the first bit of color he's seen in a long while. He bolts out of the room and tries to run out of the building, but he only finds more zombies waiting for him outside. He turns around and runs upstairs, and all the while he's thinking, what am I gonna do? If this keeps up, I'm gonna be late for work. But as he sees a crashing plane going down overhead, he has an epiphany. All the bosses that made his life a living hell, those bitches are probably dead. He doesn't have to go to work anymore. His life now has meaning again, and he can finally see all the color in the world once more. Perched atop a rooftop, he indulged in the luxury of contemplating the myriad activities now available to him, thanks to his newfound free time. His thoughts then drifted to Sorry, stirring a mix of concern and resolve within him. Despite the risks, he decided to declare his feelings for her, undeterred by her connections to the CEO who, given his condition, was probably no longer a threat in the post-apocalyptic world they were navigating. With a sense of purpose, he set off on his bike to find her. Upon arrival, a startling scene unfolded. The CEO, now a zombie, was there, prompting him to seize the moment to resign in a most dramatic fashion. The twist came when he discovered Sorry had also succumbed to the zombification. Heartbroken yet resolute, he confessed his feelings to her, seeking a semblance of closure before hastily retreating to avoid a tragic fate. That night, amidst the chaos of a world overrun by zombies, he crafted a bucket list, determined to seize the day in the face of an uncertain future. The nightmare of his past employment haunted him, but waking up to the reality of his current freedom offered a profound sense of relief. Embracing the apocalypse, he found joy in the simple act of tidying his space and relishing his freedom beer, even as the world outside descended into turmoil. As he watched the news capture the escalating chaos, Tendo was starkly reminded of the world's dire state. Yet, in that moment, his priorities were clear: to cherish the day and compensate for the years of self-imposed suffering. However, his pursuit of leisure was abruptly challenged by a sobering discovery, confronting him with a new reality. He's out of beer. This is the worst thing that could possibly have happened to him today. He was going to his lies around, but now he's got to go to get more beer, and it's not going to be an easy trip. But what kind of lazy day would it be if he didn't have beer to drink? So as much as he wants to stay put, he's going to have to do it. While he's having his moral dilemma, in another room, there is a couple who are freaking the hell out over this apocalypse. As one would normally do, the guy tells her that if they can hold out for one more day, then maybe they'll be saved, but no one's coming to save them. He goes out onto the balcony and prays for anyone to come and help, and as he says this, he locks eyes with Tendo, who is shimmying his way down a pipe. The guy is freaked out and tells Tendo to come in while it's still safe. But Tendo says he's alright for now, and he just has to go grab a few things. He then introduces himself as their next door neighbor. The guy is taken aback by Tendo's nonchalant attitude while hanging from a pipe, but he introduces himself as Kasika. Tendo wants to be nice, and since he's going to the convenience store anyway, he offers to get them some stuff like noodles and toilet paper. As Tendo races his bike down the street, the zombies begin to take notice of him and chase him. He realizes that if he gets surrounded, he might actually die here, but there's no way he's going to go the day without any beer, so this is a necessary action. He gets to the convenience store and there's a bike outside a store with a camera on it. He doesn't notice that because he is too focused on getting beer, so he prides the doors open and begins singing his beer song while shopping. Then he notices a girl standing by the fridge and he immediately dies of cringe at the song he was singing. He tries to play it off by acting like nothing happened, but the girl says nothing in return. Things are only going to get more awkward if he stays silent. So he keeps talking, but she just walks past him, so he tries to get her to give her contact info, but she finally says something. He risks his life just to go get some beers, and he didn't even get any water for the hangover. Someone with such poor survival skills would only be a liability to her. And to make it that much worse, he left the door halfway open, and now the zombies are coming through. Tendo tries to get in front of her to protect her, but she pulls him back as a truck breaks through the wall, killing the zombies by sheer coincidence. But he did learn some lessons from this. He should analyze the risk before doing something and always close the door. He hopes to meet that girl again, but now isn't the time for that. His bike was destroyed by the truck, so he's got to make a run for it. But there's no way that he's going to outrun the zombies, so he's got to think of something else. In the midst of chaos, fortune smiled upon him as he stumbled upon an abandoned scooter, providing him with a means to swiftly navigate the apocalyptic landscape. This unexpected upgrade sparked a thought. The streets were littered with vehicles, abandoned in the haste of the outbreak. His curiosity piqued. He scoured the area and soon, his eyes landed on an enticing find, a hot rod, now his for the taking. Upon returning to his apartment complex, he decided to check on Kasika, only to be met with a scene of devastation, a stark reminder of the fragility of life in this new world. Undeterred, he embraced the urgency to live fully, compiling a list of all the experiences he yearned to pursue, unfettered by the constraints of his past. Meanwhile, in a penthouse, a woman embarked on her day with a disciplined routine, preparing herself to face the world's new reality. Her approach to survival was methodical, from her fitness regimen to her study of the undead's patterns. Venturing into the streets for observation and supplies, she encountered Tendo, assessing him with a strategic eye. An unexpected event at a convenience store offered her insights into Tendo's improvisational survival tactics, prompting her to reconsider her own methods. Elsewhere, amidst the desolation, a club manager attempted to console a young girl mourning her father, a poignant scene of human resilience and vulnerability. Their moment of solace was abruptly interrupted by the return of the undead, a grim reminder of the constant peril they faced. The narrative weaves together individual stories of survival, each character navigating the harrowing landscape in their quest for meaning and survival in a world turned upside down. The manager tells the girl that he's got to go do something, and he will definitely come back to her. They head out to face the ensuing horde in the worst way, and they begin to fight to protect all the people that are left in the club. Meanwhile, Tendo was out here living his best life with his new motorcycle. He's come to the Shinjuku district looking for his best friend, Kensho. Earlier that day, Tendo was trying to grow a cool beard and speed it along. He tried using a marker to draw it on, but it didn't end up looking like he wanted it to, so he gave up on it and just shaved it off. He ponders on what to do today when he finally notices that his phone is receiving messages again. He's really happy to see this because it means that the internet must be back up and running. Since he started working 3 years ago, he hasn't had any chance to talk to his old friends, so he would really like to get to catch up with them. He sends out a bunch of messages to all of his friends and waits for replies. But then he realizes that the only reason the internet is working again is that network traffic is down, meaning that most of his friends are likely dead by now. This realization makes him really sad. All those years of skipping and hanging out with friends just to work overtime. What a huge waste of time. He keeps scrolling through his contacts and comes across one of his friends, Kensho. Now, he knows this guy is a fighter, so there is no way he would just lay down and die like that. Meanwhile, Kensho is about to lie down and die like that. He's been stuck in this room for 3 days with nothing but water, and the hallway is too crowded with zombies for him to have even the slightest hope of escaping. And even worse, he's stuck in here with this zombie woman, and the only that saved him was his love for bondage. He sits there and thinks this is it. His life even starts flashing before his eyes, and he sees memories of Tendo while they are still in college. At that moment, Tendo actually called Kensho, and he was really shocked to see that he got a call. Tendo asks for Kensho's location, and he says he's in Shinjuku. But there's no way that Tendo would be able to make it all the way there without being eaten by any zombies. But that isn't going to stop him, and that is why Tendo went to Shinjuku. On the way, he recalls how he used to meet up with Kensho for drinks. But Kensho was actually a successful real estate contractor with good pay, high praise from his bosses, and an actual love life. Kensho tells Tendo that he should probably quit his job. But at that point, Tendo was still too deep in the rabbit hole to notice that he is actually right. So instead, he gets angry at him and cuts their little hangout short. He never got the chance to apologize for that, so he's going to make sure he does that now. Meanwhile, the manager from before is about to reach his final moments, and as the zombies slowly approach him, he waits for death. However, a car horn in the distance is enough to distract the zombies and make them leave him alone. It also attracts the zombies that are holding Kensho in that room, so Tendo is finally able to go meet him. Kensho finally sees that the zombies are gone, and just then Tendo shows up and starts yelling at the top of his lungs, apologizing for not taking his advice back then and getting jealous of him. But all that shouting draws in more zombies, and they are forced to retreat to the top of the roof. They get up there, but the zombies are right on their tail, so they are now stuck. Kensho thinks this is it for him again. But Tendo isn't about to let it end like this, so Tendo tells Kensho that they should jump across the rooftops. But he isn't too sure he can make the jump. Tendo goes for it, and he makes it. But now it's Kensho's turn, but he doesn't want to do it. He apologizes to Tendo for making him feel jealous back then. In a candid moment of introspection, he confessed his disdain for his former profession, where he manipulated individuals into unfavorable contracts, using material gains to mask his dissatisfaction. Deep down, he harbored a dream to become a stand-up comic, a passion he had shelved for the practicality of his loathsome job. Encouraged by Tendo's words, he seized the moment to pursue a fresh start, symbolically shedding his past and his clothes in a daring leap towards freedom. Unfortunately, his leap fell short, leaving him precariously dangling from a ledge until Tendo's timely intervention saved him. However, the rescue came with its own painful mishap as he endured an excruciating injury in a rather sensitive area. Undeterred by the night's tumultuous events, the two found solace in camaraderie, embracing the absurdity of their situation by spending the night in unburdened revelry. Naked under the stars, Tendo, seeking a semblance of normalcy amidst chaos, engaged in a zombie-themed video game, finding a brief escape in the digital apocalypse. However, even in the game, he faced defeat, mirroring the relentless challenges of their real-world struggles. Yet, in that hammock, under the night sky, he found a momentary reprieve, a fleeting sense of peace in a world turned utterly upside down. Kensho has been cooking for him, and the food is the best thing Tendo has ever tasted. Even though he's amazed with the food, he also comments on how Kensho is probably great at everything, which would explain why he's so popular with the ladies. Kensho says this much cooking ability is normal, and Tendo's lack of skill is probably why he hasn't had any luck in his love life. Later, Kensho takes a look at Tendo's list, and it's kind of unrealistic. Like, seriously, what are the chances of him meeting a flight attendant in the apocalypse, and even more so getting the chance to wine and dine them? It would take some cosmic alignment voodoo to get that to happen. But regardless, Tendo is still going to do whatever he wants to do, even if it seems unrealistic. Kensho says that's fine, but the list doesn't even have up to 100 things on there. So Kensho starts adding his own dream of becoming a stand-up comic to the list, and by proxy, Tendo has to become one too. But since Tendo saved his life, he's along for the ride for anything that he can think of. That being the case, Tendo asks if they can head to the mall to pick up a mega flat screen TV, and so they head out on the hot rod to go get one. But before they can get there, they run into a flaming dead end, and there's even a firefighter. Still, there is a zombie. And to make things worse, Truck Kun comes barreling towards them, and Kensho is freaking the hell out. Tendo has a flashback to what happened back on his beer run, and he gets an idea to jump the tanker. It's a crazy idea, but I don't see Kensho coming up with anything. They manage to jump it, but the tanker explodes in a fiery inferno, forcing them to go into an underground mall to escape the fire. But the mall has a lot of zombies in it, and escape isn't an option anymore. So they jump off the motorcycle and start running to a nearby store with the door slightly open. The zombies chase them, but they manage to make it through and slam the door down on the zombies' fingers. A flashlight turns on, and the two turn around to find 3 women and 1 man cowering in the back. They are a bit defensive at first since they don't know if Tendo and Kensho are infected or not. But after they say they aren't, Kensho is thankful that there are other survivors. The girl doesn't see why he's so thankful since they are trapped in here with zombies on all sides. But at least it's a convenience store and they won't be starving anytime soon. If they're going to have to get through this, they aren't going to do it sober. They start scouring the store for food and liquor, and they sit down to share it. One of the girls asks if they can introduce themselves. Kensho introduces himself, and Tendo and the guy in the corner is still freaking out. So he asks the girls if they know each other. Rika, Maki, and Yukari introduced themselves to Kensho and Tendo, sharing that they were co-workers, flight attendants who had just arrived in Japan when the chaos unfolded. Seizing the moment, Tendo thought he might charm a flight attendant, only to quickly realize his flirting skills were lacking. His awkward attempt to engage Eureka highlighted his inaptitude, and he turned to Kensho for guidance, only to find him already adeptly engaging with Maki. Feeling outmatched and desperate to make an impression, Tendo resorted to a wild stunt, consuming an entire bottle of alcohol in an attempt to lighten the mood. This brash act shifted the atmosphere to one of revelry, but it came at a cost, as Tendo later found himself miserably ill. Yet, amidst his discomfort, he found a silver lining when Eureka came to check on him, igniting a flicker of hope for a connection. Meanwhile, the gathering took a dark turn when Rika's frustrations were directed at a man who had concealed a zombie bite. As the situation escalated, the man's intentions became horrifically clear, moving from a misunderstood advance to a literal threat as he sought to bite her, blending a night of attempted social connections with the grim reality of their perilous world. Her screams are heard all across the store and wake up Kensho and Maki. Maki has had the brain screwed out of her so she couldn't care less about the screams she just heard, and Tendo is still in the bathroom with Eureka. She lets him down nicely and tells him that she actually already has a boyfriend. Kensho and Maki finally come down to check on Rika, and Maki is still dazed and confused. But when they find Rika turn into a zombie, she immediately lunges at Maki and rips her face off. She then lunges at Kensho, but he knocks her lights out with a suitcase. But where did the old man go? Tendo and Eureka are having a chat about their jobs, and she shares with him how an old man made her question every choice that led her to become a flight attendant. And while they are finally bonding and talking about their dreams, the old man comes down the stairs and bites her before they can react. Tendo knocks the man down the stairs, but he doesn't want to leave her there. However, he has no choice as she is going to turn soon, and the old man is still here. He starts crying as he runs away and meets Kensho, who has a surprise for him. He managed to grab the flat-screen TV. The two manage to escape on their motorcycle, and Tendo is reflecting on what just happened. He is going to make sure that he can remember what his dream was, and he adds it to the list. When Tendo was younger, he used to be a young John Wick. He would take on upperclassmen like it was his normal morning routine, all for the sake of a nice dog. He was something of a superhero back then. However, he wakes up from his dream. Later on, Kensho is checking out the news and confirms that Japan is thoroughly screwed. However, the military was able to secure some of the more secluded villages in the mountains. Hearing this, Tendo thinks his family must be safe since they are in one of the most secluded villages in Japan. Later, while Tendo is helping Kensho get his hair for his new beginning, he makes a declaration. He is going to become John Wick. He plans to become someone who goes around saving people from zombies. But Kensho is a little skeptical. For one thing, Tendo doesn't even have a gun, but he has already thought of something to fix that. And a new item has been added to the list to become a superhero. The two later head to the aquarium for Tendo's plan, and it's in pretty bad shape since all the workers had abandoned it. They look around the place for a bit until Tendo finds just what he is looking for. Meanwhile, a bus full of people is getting stuck in the zombie traffic, and the driver tells them that they are going to have to wait out the horde. But at least they are in a sealed bus, and there is no way any zombies are going to be getting in. Thanks to this guy, all the bus passengers have to run for their lives, and now they are getting slaughtered. This one girl has managed to escape so far, and she is running towards the aquarium. As she spots it, she thinks she will be safe once she gets inside, but then horror movie logic kicks in and she falls over. Unfortunately for her, Usain Bolt was in the zombie crowd, and he is making a mad dash straight for her. As she is about to become zombie food, Tendo runs out of the aquarium and tackles Bolt, launching him a good 10 meters away. In an innovative twist of survival ingenuity, he had armed himself with a shark suit pilfered from an aquarium, betting on its protective capabilities against zombie bites. Confident in the suit's ability to thwart even the fiercest shark, he felt a surge of heroism, directing survivors to the aquarium for refuge. Among the crowd, he noticed a familiar face, his second crush, but the urgency of the moment left no room for romantic distractions. The situation escalated when Bolt, a notably persistent zombie, reappeared for a confrontation. The suit, while bite-resistant, didn't shield him from the pain of the assaults, leading to a desperate struggle on the ground. Betrayed by Kencho's hasty retreat with a quip, he was left to fend for himself. Demonstrating quick thinking and physical prowess, Tendo managed to dispatch the zombies, leveraging the bridge and river to his advantage. Grateful that his undead assailants were no swimmers. Returning to the aquarium, he found Kencho nonchalantly awaiting him, as if the act of abandonment was a mere trifle. Seeking solace, or perhaps understanding, Tendo approached his crush, only to be met with a barrage of mocking jibes that targeted his very essence. A stark reminder of the personal challenges that remained amidst the overarching struggle for survival. Kencho tries to defend Tendo's honor, but the roasting is too thorough. After that, there is a loud crash sound heard throughout the entire aquarium. Tendo and Kencho decide to go check it out, but when they find the source of the sound, they find something horrifying. The zombies couldn't find any swimmers, so they called in a shark. The shark starts chasing them, and they run to warn all the other people. Tendo tries to stay behind and fight, but then he realizes that is a shark with legs. You don't mess with a shark with legs. They get cornered in a room with even more zombies, and they start heading for the emergency exit. But then this girl just grabs Tendo's crush, stops for a second, and then pushes her aside because she's scared. And now Tendo's crush is likely a gunner. Upon realizing that she isn't in there with them, Kencho tries to go help her, but the door has been warped too much for it to open. He looks around to ask Tendo what he should do, but Tendo already left to help. On the other end, Tendo's crush is faced with a huge shark, and she can only blame herself for not realizing that you never stay with large groups during zombie chase. She has accepted her death, but Tendo hasn't, so he jumps from an air vent and tackles the shark. She is shocked that he would risk his life to come to save her even after the roasting she gave him. What reason does he have for coming back? But Tendo doesn't need a reason to help someone. He is just doing what he wants to do. She is amazed by Tendo's resilience and asks him if he's got a plan yet, but he hasn't thought of one. As they run, she comes up with a plan to beat the shark. Since sharks are sensitive to electric charges, if they were to shock it, it would become confused and unable to attack them. While distracting the shark, Tendo gets smacked through a wall and is down for the count, and Kencho is trying to figure out a way to save him before he becomes shark food. So he comes up with a foolproof plan. He's going to bait the shark with his ass. But once the shark takes the bait, he starts to regret his decision. But that distraction was enough to let Tendo get back up, and the girl has finally found some batteries. So she tosses them to him, and he uses them to shock the shark silly. After escaping, they walk out together, and Kencho asks if she isn't going to follow either group, but she says she's done with groups for now. She still doesn't understand why Tendo would risk his life for her, but Tendo says she's someone precious to him now, so he would save her regardless. This gets her flustered, and she finally agrees to give Tendo her contact information. Later, Tendo is in a store, staring down the Rolex on the wall which he could never hope to afford. But now that the world has ended, he can have as much ice on his wrists as he wants. Then Kencho shows him some even more expensive bling, and I believe it is safe to say that these two are dripped out of their minds right now. That night, Tendo finds that they are out of the water now, and the city has gone completely dark. Their phones are still charged, but they can't get any news since the stations are down. They very well may be the last people in the city, so maybe they should start taking the zombie apocalypse seriously. But before that, they take in the beautiful skyline that is visible thanks to all the power going out. Tomorrow, they head for Tendo's hometown, Gunma. The next morning, they begin packing for the trip, and Tendo says his goodbyes to his old life. It is normally a 5-hour drive to Gunma, but there is no telling what the traffic will be like now. Since it's going to be a long trip, Kenjo asks if they are going to finally get a gun for self-defense. But Tendo has something else in mind. If they are going to be traveling, then they are going to do it in style. So Tendo wants to go get a luxury camping vehicle and buy some twist of fate. They run into Shizuka there as well. Tendo tries to get her to go with them, but he has still got no game, and she shoots him down immediately. Kencho, on the other hand, is able to strike up a conversation with her and finds out that she doesn't have a license. So they manage to convince her that it will be safer to go with them. They go into the car show and are amazed by all the cars there. There is even a tank RV for no other reason than it is cool as hell. Shizuka is still all about practicality and is trying to pick something that can drive well and has good fuel rates. But Tendo is all in with the luxury camper. He has found his third love, but Shizuka is still on the side of practicality and argues that there is no way they could get anywhere in that thing. However, she spots an RV that makes her question everything she has just said. The dynamic within the group took an interesting turn when she, usually the pragmatic one, was teased for showing a preference for design over functionality. Their banter, however, led to unintended consequences as the noise attracted a horde of zombies, forcing them into a hasty retreat in a randomly chosen RV. With Kendo keeping pace on a bike and Tendo at the RV's helm, they navigated the eerily deserted streets, pondering the unnerving silence and the dire circumstances that led to such desolation. Shizuka, musing on the nature of the outbreak, suggested it might be viral, hinting at a sliver of hope if a vaccine could be developed. Yet, their immediate concern was survival, not the broader battle against the infection. Their journey took a perilous turn when they encountered spike strips on the road, an ominous sign of human threats amidst the zombie chaos. The situation intensified when the leader of the ambush turned out to be Tendo's former boss, adding a personal vendetta to the already fraught encounter, intertwining past grievances with the struggle to survive in a world overrun by the undead. I bet Tendo wishes he got that gun now, doesn't he? Tendo starts getting PTSD from all the abuse he suffered at the hands of the scumbag. This was his whole plan. He made them crash, so they are stuck here, and he wants to force Tendo to work for him again. Shizuka isn't falling for his BS and calls him out on how he makes it seem like he is helping them and protecting them from looters. But he is the looter here, and he is saying it all with a smile on his face. But with no other choice, Tendo is forced to work for him again, and his hell has started back up. Shizuka tends to Kencho's wounds and Kencho apologizes for causing them to have to come here. But she tells him that they probably planned this whole thing out from the start and had no choice. Tendo sees how the others here are being worked to death, but there's nothing he can say about it. While moving equipment, Tendo comes across some beers, gets a glint of joy in his eyes, tries to cool them down for everyone to enjoy, but the boss comes by and is annoyed that Tendo would waste his precious electricity on something like employee satisfaction. Tendo is gripped by his PTSD, but then the employees come and see the beer, so he is forced to give it to them. Otherwise, he is going to become the bad guy. He is still nothing more than an exploitative bastard, but he holds all the power here, so there is nothing they can do to oppose him for now. He even started using zombies as labor and told Tendo to be more like the zombies, a piece of equipment that couldn't think for himself. This is what happens when there are no labor unions. That night, Kencho asks Shizuka if she has noticed how Tendo has been acting strange lately. But she has already pieced together what Tendo's working life was like and knows what it feels like to be controlled, and has her own experience with being exploited. So she knows that Tendo can't find the willpower to fight back. When she was a little kid, she was walking home from school on a rainy day when she came across a little puppy in a box. She couldn't just leave it there, so she decided to take it home. But upon asking for her father's permission to keep the dog, he immediately tells her to eat the dog. He sees no point in taking care of a sickly dog, and she needs to rise above her peers and not waste her time on such childish things as caring for another being. She is literally like 4 years old, but he is telling her to be ruthless and calculating in her actions. completely willing to toss aside anyone who she sees as weak. Back to the present, Tendo's Scummego boss is putting on a cheery act to welcome him and his crew to the team. He is everyone enjoying themselves and drinking to their heart's content, while Tendo is over there slaving away. These two guys are having fun and asking the real important questions. Would you get infected for smashing a zombie chick? But when one of them runs out of beer, they call over to Tendo to bring them some more, and my guy is an absolute mess right now. He trips over his feet and falls to the ground, dropping the beer, and even though it is the apocalypse, some things remain the same as the people still treat the wait staff like shit. Tendo is repeatedly saying he's sorry as the people yell at him while swear. His old boss is having a hissy fit over a granny pouring his alcohol and states that he will only accept booze that is poured by women with the finest boobs. So he calls over to Shizuka and orders her to pour his drink. She reluctantly agrees and does as he says while he stares down her assets. She gives him his drink, but he then forces her to have one even though she doesn't want one, and look at the way this dude is licking his lips. It's obvious he wants to turn this into a different type of anime. After she's done drinking, he asks her to let him fondle her, to which she ignores him. So he yells for Tendo to come over and bring him another bottle of booze so he can get Shizuka drunk enough to the point she might find him to be slightly less ugly. But sad to say, even alcohol isn't going to be able to fix that face. When Tendo doesn't respond in half a second, he yells even louder to get the attention of a frazzled Tendo and makes him give him another bottle of beer. However, between the lack of sleep, heat stroke, and constant yelling, Tendo accidentally hands him an empty bottle and Ganzu loses it. He starts yelling at Tendo and simultaneously wasting at least 6 gallons of spit on his rant, while Shizuka is still sitting at the table, lost in thought. Reflecting on her past, she recalled the relentless lessons from her father, who from her birth had molded her to prioritize manipulation and power over compassion, deeming such emotions unnecessary for a CEO. In defiance, she secretly cared for an injured dog in her attic, immersing herself in veterinary care to nurse it back to health. This act of kindness became a beacon of joy, a rare companion in her isolated world. However, her father, adamant about eradicating any semblance of empathy, committed an unthinkable act, extinguishing the life of her newfound friend, symbolically crushing her ability to feel. This loss marked a turning point, stripping her of her heart and binding her to her father's ruthless ethos, a life devoid of autonomy and suffused with obedience. Now, in the present, Ganzu employs similar tactics on Tendo, systematically dismantling his self-assurance, echoing the manipulative control she once endured. This parallel draws a poignant line between past and present, highlighting the enduring impact of manipulation and the struggle to reclaim one's sense of self amidst overwhelming coercion. After Tendo accidentally drops some canned foods, he begins laying into him about being as stupid and useless, also saying he's going to have to work there longer to make up for this. Tendo tries to object, but Ganzu begins to lay into him once more, and now Tendo has been thoroughly broken. With his methods having worked, he goes in to finish the final stage of his plan, gaslighting. He puts on the kind act to get Tendo to trust him and says he is only doing this for his own good, so he wants Tendo to stay and work here permanently. The outside is dangerous and you never know when you will encounter the next horde of zombies. So it was either stay here in the safe compound and work under Ganzu or leave and face the apocalypse alone. But personally, I would take on the apocalypse any day of the week before I work under this walking trash bag. However, Tendo has lost too many brain cells from listening to Ganzu's voice, so he is not able to make the right decision here and falls for the gaslighting. So as it starts to get dark, Tendo is still out working like a zombie. Shizuko was resting in the camper when she came across the bucket list that Tendo made and couldn't help but smile at the sight of the dream written on the list, so she added one more to it. The next day, some of the other guys are out on a supply run when they take a break, and one complains that Ganzu is the leader but he never actually does any work. But the other guy is just glad they don't get treated like the people in Tendo's shoes. He tells the shorter guy to hurry up and close the door to the truck before a zombie climbs in. But would you look at that, a zombie already climbed in. Meanwhile, back at the compound, Shizuka and Kanjo are all packed up and ready to go as they had agreed. But Tendo comes out and starts saying he is going to stay here and work for the chief from now on. Kanjo can't believe what he is hearing and thinks it must be a joke, but Tendo is dead serious. He has been tricked into thinking he is a dumb, ugly idiot who wouldn't last a minute in the outside world, and with how he is acting, he has definitely become smooth-brained. Shizuka begins to walk away, prepared to leave Tendo behind if he won't be joining them. But as Tendo continues to talk about how he needs to repay Ganzu for all the kindness that he has shown him, so the only option he has is to stay here and listen to his every command. Shizuka recalls her childhood and sees a lot of herself in the way Tendo is acting right now. So before she leaves, she turns around to give Tendo the wake-up call he so desperately needed. She asks if Ganzu is only using him. What he really wants is for Tendo to give up his free will and sense of self so he can become a mindless drone. He doesn't care about you. He just wants slave labor. He's fat, got lips like the Kardashians, but a face even his mother couldn't love. So he tries to get other people's lives to be just as bad as his to make himself feel a bit better. And as the roasting continues, everyone just stares in amazement as she is absolutely violating Ganzu. With how things are in the world, she can't say which is the right choice between staying and leaving. But what she does know is that she doesn't want to be anywhere near Ganzu or his nasty BO any longer. So she asks Tendo what he wants to do as she hands him back his bucket list and shows him the item he added to it. Ganzu sees that she is actually getting through to him, so he tries to put a stop to it by grabbing his notebook out of his hand and throwing it to the ground. But that was the final straw that sent Tendo over the edge. Anime is named after this book, so this kind of disrespect is not going to go uncontested. Tendo somehow manages to get under Ganzu's feet to stop him from stepping on it and gets up having finally grown a pair of balls. However, he is still being much nicer than I would have been. He just says, "What the hell was wrong with me? Ganzu, thank you but this ain't it fam. I never want to see your ugly ass again." Ganzu is shocked by Tendo's sudden self-confidence. He tries to continue the gaslighting and says Tendo still owes him. But Tendo counters by saying, "I missed the part where that's my problem. Even if I become a zombie, it's still gonna be better than being worked like a zombie by you." As he says this, the resource collection team returns, happily unveiling their great haul for the day. But instead, he gets mauled by a zombie. Back on the road, Tendo's spirits were high, boasting an impressive tally of over 30 completed items on his bucket list. His ambition to hit 100 achievements was palpable, though Shizuka harbored concerns that his relentless pursuit might bring him peril. Their journey took a turn when they encountered a truck besieged by zombies, signaling the presence of another survivor. Seizing the opportunity to play the hero once again, Tendo donned his shark suit, ready to launch into action. However, before he could make his move, the scene was dramatically upstaged by a figure straight out of history. A samurai with astonishing agility and skill decimated the undead with a mere bow, a feat that left Tendo and the group in awe. The samurai, upon removing their mask, revealed an unexpected identity: Beatrix, a German girl whose prowess instantly captivated the group. Her gratitude towards them marked a significant moment, subtly shifting the group's dynamics and introducing a new layer of intrigue to their adventure. After explaining the whole situation, the group finds out that Beatrix had come to Japan because she loved the culture here so much. Everything from the historical battles to the tentacle hentai, which explains why she had the samurai armor. Tendo opened up the back of the truck she was in and found that it was a refrigeration truck with a ton of tuna in the back. She asks for his understanding because there is a very important mission that she must accomplish, and to do that, she needs a working vehicle. So she asks for their help in delivering the fish to Takasaka. Beatrix seems really sincere in her request, so Shizuka is considering going along with it since she might be transporting food to survivors. Tendo gets down in front of her and asks why she wants to have that fish delivered so badly, so she starts explaining. She had gotten her first glimpse of Japan the same way most kids do, from watching anime, and ever since then, she had worked hard to save up and come here to experience it for herself. However, just as she landed and was about to finally experience her dream, the world said a huge fuck you to her and the zombie apocalypse began. But she wasn't going to let her dream die out just yet. So she found the last living sushi chef that didn't work at a gas station good at his job and got him to agree to make sushi for her if she were able to find him some fish. So her reason for doing all of this is sushi. And luckily for her, Tendo heard sushi and was all in on the plan. The others go along with it as well because why not? So they all head to the city to meet the sushi man. Beatrix leads the way there but is worried because the last time she spoke with the sushi man was over 3 days ago, so she has no guarantee that he is still alive. But the faith in the sushi drives her not to give up hope yet. They get to a turn and find that the street is full of a ton of zombies. However, that isn't going to stop them from getting their sushi. So Beatrix and Tendo suit up. They are very motivated. But if you are wondering if they have a plan here, they do not. However, Shizuka thinks she has a pretty good one, and it involves using the most irresistible bait known to zombie kind, Kencho's ass. They take the bait, so Kencho starts running like crazy to get away from them, and as they are all backed into a corner, Tendo traps them all in with a truck, leaving Beatrix free to hack away at the zombies one by one. The sound of the car attracts even more zombies, and it is now time for the next phase of the plan. With all the zombies in one spot, they begin to throw bottles of alcohol at them and are about to light the flames, but they don't check to see if the matches they had still worked. So now, the zombies are overwhelming the makeshift barricade, and now they are heading towards their RV. If the zombies surround it, they won't be able to move or get back in, and all that fish and their hopes of sushi will be gone. Tendo is not going to let that happen, so he jumps down to defend the truck with his life, because he would rather turn into a zombie than not eat sushi ever since they met Beatrix an hour ago. They are mowing their way through the onslaught of zombies in superhuman fashion, but there are evidently too many of them for just 2 people to handle. Things were looking grim. However, Shizuka had a backup plan and used a drone to lure the zombies back into the main square. She is through with playing games and has a whole ass station covered in fuel to blow the zombies sky high. Kancho throws a Molotov into the mix and zombie fireworks erupt as they all begin to catch fire, and the group watches from a nearby rooftop. With all the zombies taken care of, nothing stands in their way any longer, and they are able to do what they have been wanting all day: stuff their faces full of fish meat. The sushi chef was originally from Gunma, but had spent the past 30 years of his life honing his fish serving skills, so it made him incredibly happy that there were people out there who still wanted to eat his sushi. While the others had already started eating, Beatrix was hesitant to take her first bite. She grabs the sushi and, after dipping it in the soy sauce, takes her first bite and has been brought to tears. Seeing this, the sushi man is brought to tears. This is what it's all about. The tireless weeks he worked, missing his daughter's wedding and not even attending his wife's funeral. All of it was worth it for this moment. I'm not even kidding. That was what he said. In a moment of revelation, he recognized the emptiness of his work-centric life. Declaring an impromptu celebration, they decided to indulge in the store's alcohol reserves, marking a night of camaraderie and escape from their grim reality. The next day, as they resumed their journey, the group grappled with the oppressive heat, amplifying their discomfort. Beatrix, despite her complaints about the temperature, continued to charm the group, solidifying her status and sparking friendly rivalry with Shizuka. The lack of hygiene due to days without proper showers became painfully apparent, setting the stage for what would be their bath episode. As they donned bathrobes, the group prepared for a much-needed break, with Beatrix's enthusiasm for Japanese culture shining through, especially her knowledge of hot springs. Despite her detailed explanations, the group was more captivated by the prospect of a refreshing respite than the intricacies of her knowledge. Eager to momentarily forget their hardships in the soothing embrace of a hot spring, they were advertised in the Edo period as a cure for all diseases aside from low sickness and down bad syndrome. So it won't help Tendo, who is down bad, for Shizuka right now. He tries steering the conversation into flirting territory, but Shizuka still maintains her position of finding love to be unnecessary, while indirectly calling Tendo broke. Moving on, the guys finally get to the men's bath and are eager to hop in, and so is Shizuka. So she's about to head over to the women's bath, but Beatrix returns saying there isn't anything hot water over there. It appears that the pump for that section is broken, and hearing this, the boys go into philosopher mode. Given the circumstances, it would seem that there is no other choice, but do not be mistaken, we take no joy in this, now come join. But Shizuka shut that down really quick. However, their speech seems to have resonated with Beatrix, so she fully disrobes to join them, only making the down bad syndrome worse. However, before she can get in, Tendo and Kensho look behind them to find that the bath is actually full of a bunch of naked zombie men, so they are all forced to run for the hills. They manage to escape, and luckily there are no mountain climber zombies anywhere to be seen, so they are safe for now. But what good is it being safe if they didn't even get to enjoy the hot springs? They all cry over their misfortune, but they fall asleep soon afterward. Tendo wakes up and is feeling thirsty, so he wanders into the forest to find some sustenance. But instead, he finds something much better, a natural hot spring just sitting in the middle of the mountain. He wasted no time in taking off all of his clothes and getting into the water. But as he drifts along in the waters, he bumps into a person and is faced with the glorious reality that he is in. He is in the hot spring with the naked Shizuka, which is great for him, but won't help with his thirstiness. He apologizes for the situation, to which she says it's fine, but he should get out immediately. However, He flips the script on her and says no, he's been wanting to get in one of these all day, and he'd rather die than miss out on this opportunity. While they sit there in awkwardness, Shizuka begins to apologize to Tendo for rejecting his ideas on how a relationship should work. Growing up, she was taught that there are two kinds of people, those who are correct and those who have enough resources to make themselves correct. Her father always had the policy of maintaining your position and suing them into oblivion until they give up. So for a moment there, she fell back into old habits and couldn't be open about what she wanted to say. Then Tendo points out that she is being pre-open right now. She realizes he's right and says she would want to find a partner who she could talk to like this. She then realizes that she just gave Tendo the green light as a potential partner. She is embarrassed as Tendo asks if she means what he thinks she means. But before she can give a definite answer, Kencho and Beatrix find them and feel betrayed that they would come here without them. They both immediately get naked and jump into the hot spring as well. After that, they continue on their way to the Gunma. Beatrix is worried for the safety of Tendo's parents, but he doesn't think they get taken down by something like the zombie apocalypse. Arthritis maybe, but zombies would never get them. If they are still alive, Kencho thinks he's going to need to introduce himself to them. So naturally, his first thought is to get naked. Tendo speeds up the vent to drown out Kencho and Shizuka asks if he is nervous by any chance, since the last time he visited them was 3 years ago. While he isn't exactly nervous, he does think it's going to be an awkward conversation with his father after how they left things off. But his train of thought is cut off as Beatrix screams to inform him of the roadblock ahead of them. Tendo stops the van and gets out to go check the barricade. But as he approaches, he sees the tunnel full of hundreds of zombies. His village was on the other side of the tunnel, so they are worried something might have happened to them. But Tendo doesn't recognize any of the faces he knew from his village among those zombies, so he is still confident that his village is safe. Since they can't make it through the tunnel, the only other choice they have is to abandon the car and take a hike through the forest to get around the mountain and into the village. Though he has no reason to believe the zombies have overrun his village, he is starting to have his doubts about their survival. Upon discovering that the tunnel's other end was also sealed, Shizuka deduced that the villagers had cleverly used this strategy to quarantine the zombies from the city, effectively protecting themselves. Amidst this realization, a sudden scream disrupted their analysis, as they witnessed a man frantically running toward them, pursued not by a typical zombie, but by a zombified boar, humorously dubbed Pumba. Beatrix, ever the skilled archer, swiftly neutralized the threat with a precise shot, earning gratitude from the man, introduced as Kamano. When questioned about his presence in such a perilous location, Kamano revealed his escape from the city's chaos to the relative safety of the forest, albeit acknowledging the impracticality of forest life as a long-term solution. Kamano's robust build and survival skills, likened to the video game character Steve from Minecraft, sparked a lighthearted moment, suggesting his capability to adapt and thrive in the wilderness, much like his pixelated counterpart. This encounter not only added a new character to their dynamic but also showcased diverse survival strategies employed by individuals in the post-apocalyptic world. He is a master carpenter, so if he doesn't have a house, he can just make one for himself. And Tendo wants to get in on that action as well since it was on his list. He tells Komano he must be in such a rush to finish his treehouse, so they'll offer their help to him, completely ignoring the fact that he was on his way to see if his parents were doing the zombie shuffle. But this is clearly more important. Kamano is happy to have the help and starts giving them lessons on carpentry while they build. The type of treehouse you can build depends on the tree, so you have to learn to ask the forest how to build. If the tree dies, your house dies, so you have to take note of everything happening around you, ensure the health of your tree. Tendo talks about how he always wanted to be able to build a treehouse, which reminds Komano a lot of his son. But once Tendo asks about him, Komano falls silent. His son was bitten by his wife who had turned into a zombie, so he had to kill them both with his own hands. He never even got to do this with him before he died, but Tendo says he's here to support him. They continue working on the treehouse until it's completed and it's looking pretty good. But I'm definitely not going to use that slide after Kencho already went down. Now that the treehouse has been built, Tendo and the others continue on their way to the Gunma village, and Tendo shows what his parents were talking about when they were explaining how they went to school. But even though it very well could have killed them, it at least ensures that no zombies would be able to make it all the way across the death trap. From here, they can finally see the village and walk further into the forest to reach it. While they walk, Tendo thinks about how he never came back to the village despite having many opportunities to do so over the course of the years. So he is determined to make it up to them now that he is back. But upon arriving, they find no one, absolutely no one, so Tendo is worried that they actually were killed by the zombies. So he runs around looking for them and finds everyone in a hut, doing whatever this is. He finds his mom and dad there as well and begins to apologize to them profusely for failing to do anything for them and never visiting in the 3 years he was gone. But his dad doesn't want to hear any of that crap and smacks him across the head. He then turns to the others and says they can stay in some of the empty rooms while they are here. He then heads off to the fields without saying anything more to them. Tendo's mother prepares a meal for all of them using the wild plants they had available in the area, and Shizuka is impressed by how self-sufficient they actually are. The village is pretty small and secluded, so during the winters, they are pretty much cut off from the rest of the world anyway, so they grow a large chunk of their own food here in the village. The people from the city heard that Gunma would be safe, but once again, the fuckers who kept hiding that they were bit and screwed up for everyone, and they had to seal off the tunnel to stop the spread. But for the uninfected people that made it into the village safely, they get to live in the spare houses they have here. But that aside, Tendo still has his mission to help his mom and dad to make up for the time he didn't spend with them. So he starts with his mom by helping her with the dishes and doing a bunch of things for her. But she tells him it's fine, and he should just let her do her thing. Even if he couldn't be of help to mom, he could still help dad out on the farm. While out there, they silently work, but the silence is a bit too loud for Tendo. So he tries to strike up some small talk with his dad. However, he isn't much of a small talk type and gives short, boring answers. Tendo is at a loss because he wants to make his parents happy, but at the same time, he isn't going to give up. Later in the evening, we see his dad start to cough off blood, and it's clearly not a good sign. But he hides this fact from Tendo, acting like he is doing just fine. They walk home when they happen to run across some people who come from the city, and Tendo claims to have seen them before. Those people go to the tunnel with zombies and do not have the best of intentions. The leader was your average loser, maybe even above average when it comes to being a loser. So for him, once the world collapsed, he couldn't be happier because that meant he didn't have to follow any more rules. So if he does the first thing a hardcore smoker would do in this situation, he robs his cigarette store. But there he finds a whole bunch of losers who must have some serious beef with their barbers. So they form a group that parallels Tendo's 100 Things We Want to Do Before Becoming a Zombie. Criminal Edition. The next day, we see Tendo trying out something new, as the girls mess with his hair to give him the look most guys wonder if they could pull off, dreadlocks. During a serene tea break, the group learned more about each other's past lives, revealing a tapestry of varied expertise. The woman who fashioned Tendo's dreadlocks turned out to be a seasoned hairstylist with a decade of experience, eager to assist Tendo in his style exploration. The revelations continued, with one woman being a former Tokyo College instructor and another a professional makeup artist for films, adding layers of depth to their survival group. Tendo, intrigued by the makeup artist's film industry background, discovered she worked on a movie he recognized, Song of the Dead. Her account of a zombie movie set turning into a real-life horror scenario when the outbreak hit provided a chilling irony. Initially dismissed as a stunt, the terrifying reality dawned on the crew amidst genuine carnage, a stark departure from the simulated gore of cinema. Despite the harrowing journey to the village, the newcomers were embraced by the local community, fostering a sense of belonging and a glimmer of hope for a semblance of normalcy. Meanwhile, Shizuka adapted to the village's rustic lifestyle, learning survival techniques predating modern conveniences, indicating a shift toward more traditional, self-sufficient living methods as a way to navigate the post-apocalyptic world. This collective adaptability highlighted the group's resilience and the potential for reinvention amidst adversity. In a moment of rustic simplicity, the grandmother expressed a preference for rice cooked traditionally over hearth fire, a sentiment Shizuka appreciated as she tended to the flames. However, an unsettling encounter with a senile old man, mistaking her for his deceased wife, briefly marred the experience. The grandmother explained the man's confusion and past as a skilled hunter, offering a glimpse into his and the village's history. The scene shifted as a villager sought assistance for a damaged hamlet, leading to an impromptu first aid session led by Shizuka. Despite her protests of not being a doctor, her knowledge of basic medical care positioned her as the village's go-to person for health-related issues, a role she assumed with a blend of reluctance and earnestness. Meanwhile, Kancho was introduced to the village's pragmatic use of a cesspit, transforming waste into valuable fertilizer, a vital practice in Japan's nutrient-depleted soils. This detail highlighted the community's resourcefulness and adherence to sustainable practices, providing a contrast to the group's previous experiences in the more technology-dependent outside world. Through these interactions, the group further integrated into the village, adopting and contributing to its survival strategies in the post-apocalyptic setting. They also say that if you dive into the cesspit, you'll get ahead in life, but Kensho isn't willing to find out if that's true or not. He notices a girl sitting by herself petting her dog and asks who she is. So the man explains that she is a girl who managed to escape from the city, but she lost her parents along the way, so her dog is the only family she has left. With what happened to her since she got here, she hasn't so much as smiled even once, so Kensho takes it upon himself to cheer her up with his routine. But she is still a little girl, so he keeps his family jewels tucked away. He goes up to her and asks if she would like to watch him juggle, but she is just confused why he started talking to her all of a sudden. He says it's common courtesy to say hello to a lady, whether it be a little girl or an old lady. This only applies in Italy though. The girl doesn't get why he would bring up Italy when he is an Italian. But it gets her to chuckle a bit, so Kensho accomplishes his mission. He introduces himself and asks her what her name is, so she tells him it's Anju, so he'll call her Angie as a nickname. Now that they are friends, he wants to show her his performance where he eats a bowl of udon for his butt, but she decides that she'll have to pass on that one. Elsewhere, in the village, Beatrix is being shown the water wheel that is used to generate the electricity that they use in the village, although the output is just enough to cover the bare necessities. There have been a lot of zombie bears and boars showing up in the village recently, so they had to fortify the electric fence that is powered by the water wheel. It is meant to keep the zombie bears away and delivers a light shock to anything that touches it. But there is something Beatrix should watch out for here. The box she is pointing to is what shuts off the power if there is an electricity leak, or if the voltage is too high, so she warns Beatrix to be careful because it can be really dangerous. Back with Tendo, the girls are talking about how they are starting to enjoy village life here. Doing things here is hard and takes time, but that helps you connect with the people that do it. Later in the evening, while Tendo is working in the fields, Kensho comes up to greet him. While Tendo was working the fields, Kensho had been learning to slaughter a chicken, and the trauma may prevent him from ever eating chicken tendies ever again. While they are talking and having fun, Kensho notices a familiar face walking by and calls out to Higurashi, since it has been a long time since he has seen him. But Higurashi isn't too thrilled to see the two of them, and turns around to leave.
Tendo didn't seem to recognize him, so Kensho explained that he was in their general studies class and back in college, but then he suddenly just stopped showing up to class. Higurashi can't believe he has to see the two of them even here. They were the bane of his existence back in college because they had the one thing he never did, happiness. It's been a long time since he has had to see their annoyingly happy faces, but it's fine since it's perfect for his sinister plan. Later that night, Tendo finds his dad outside having a drink and asks if he can join since this is a great chance to spend some time with him. His dad doesn't see a problem with it and has Tendo sit next to him as they watch the stars. Tendo begins saying something and tells his dad that even though when he was a kid he idolized city life, he is starting to think that living in the village might not be so bad anymore. He's sure they could use the extra help around the place. So what he is trying to say is that he would like to stay in the village with them forever. But his dad is still against the idea of him keeping himself confined to their small village. A man should go out and find the biggest dream he can and aim for it with everything he has got. And by the way, not that it's important right now, but his dad feels the need to tell him that those dreads don't suit him at all. The two have a laugh about it and continue drinking into the night, finally having the bonding time that Tendo wanted. However, the good times are about to end since the reject squad is about to destroy everything that this village has built up. They are going to turn everyone in here into zombie food, and Higurashi has a personal grudge against Tendo as well. While everyone in the village is having their usual night party, one of them goes out to take a leak and sees the mayhem that's about to unfold. Beatrix, Kensho, Shizuka, and Tendo realize that something is terribly wrong, so they head out to check on things and find that the village has been overrun with zombies. They don't understand how this could have happened, but his dad immediately goes to do some damage control and find his wife while he tells Tendo to go get his friends. Higurashi and the rejects ride in the bulldozers, safe from the zombies while laughing at the people running for their lives, and Shizuka tries to get the sick and injured to barricade themselves inside one house, but she gets swarmed by zombies in the process. However, all the people she had helped as the local doctor come to her rescue and the hunting squad load their guns to begin mowing down the zombies. But there are too many of them, so they are forced to retreat inside. The village's tranquility was shattered by Higurashi's malicious actions, as he detonated dynamite, destroying several homes. Amidst the chaos, Shizuka witnessed the devastation, fearing the entire village might be lost if swift action wasn't taken. In a separate ordeal, Kencho, while attempting to escape with Angie, found themselves perilously close to being overtaken by zombies. In a crucial moment, Beatrix intervened, wielding her weapon to avert their grim fate. Reunited with Shizuka and Tendo, the group quickly strayed guys to lead the villagers to safety on a suspension bridge, a location thought to be beyond the zombies' reach. However, an obstacle presented itself in the form of an electric fence encircling the village, believed to emit only mild shocks to deter zombies, bears, and boars. Kencho's painful reaction to the fence's jolt contradicted Beatrix's assurance, adding a new layer of urgency to their escape plan as they navigated the dangers threatening their sanctuary. Someone must have turned up the voltage and messed with the machine to turn the electricity off, meaning the electric fence is basically trapping them all inside, and the culprits behind it are Higurashi and the rejects. At first they aren't sure he's the one behind it all, but after he confirms it himself, they can't understand why he is doing this. He has his own bucket list of things to do, and if he's going to die anyway, he is going to live how he wants to and cause as much pain and suffering to others as he likes. He particularly doesn't like Tendo because back in college he was always having so much fun every day, while Higurashi's life sucked big time, so he hated Tendo ever since. And for that reason, he would really like to see him turn into a zombie. Tendo can understand wanting to live your last days how you want since he is doing the same thing, but what he can't allow is living in a way that tramples over other people's lives. He can't let them destroy the lives of the villagers here struggling to survive. He hasn't repaid his parents for raising him yet, so he will make sure Higurashi doesn't achieve his goal. But since he's the one who has a bulldozer and the group is about to be surrounded by zombies, it all split up to save as many people as possible and make it out of the village. Higurashi continues to go on his rampage through the village while Tendo's dad, along with the girls he was talking to earlier, all barricade themselves inside one house for safety. But it seems that Tendo's dad's illness is finally catching up to him as he falls to the ground, but he says he is fine. Meanwhile, Tendo is making his way over to them while beating the zombies with a long stick. Elsewhere, Angie is running around looking for her dog Charo, and she finds him doing questionable things to a chicken. She's glad Tendo finally found her precious dog, but she gets grabbed from behind by Kencho, who covers her mouth so they don't allure a zombie that was passing nearby. After it's gone, he tells her that it's dangerous to go off on your own in a situation like this, but she had to go find Charo since now that her parents are already dead. He is the only family she has left. Kencho understands how she feels, but it isn't safe here, so he finds a ladder and has them all climb onto the roof of the building since zombies won't be able to get up here. However, while zombies may not have the motor functions to climb the ladder, this guy from the reject squad definitely does, so he is able to get out onto the roof and intends to push Kencho and the girl to the floor, so they can get eaten by zombies. As you can tell by looking at his ugly face, his life was terrible before this apocalypse, so he wants to make them suffer the same pain he experienced even though they had nothing to do with it. He uses his stick to try and push Kencho off the roof. Meanwhile, Beatrix is on her way to stop the water wheel, so the electric fence stops working. However, her gallant attempt is foiled by reject number 2, who crashed a tractor into the horse she was riding. And while it may seem incredibly dumb to challenge a German girl whom you've seen slice zombies in half with one swing, the reject had come prepared with a chainsaw and cut the long weapon in half with the skills of a two-time national fencing champion back in middle school, which was also coincidentally when her life peaked. Beatrix draws her sword and prepares for serious combat because this may well be a battle to the death. Shizuka is trying to evacuate the villagers who have locked themselves in their houses. The zombies will definitely be able to break through those things doors in no time, so they have to get moving. But the people tell her to calm down and listen. They are thankful for all the help she has given them, but they are old and unable to move around easily, and one of them is even bedridden, so they won't be able to carry him. They would just be a burden to her if they came along, so they urge Shizuka to leave them behind and escape with the other able-bodied people in the village. She can't just go along with what they are saying, but at this rate, they will all die sooner or later. With no other choice, she takes it upon herself to draw the attention of the zombies away from the old-timers. promising to come back to get them out of there. Meanwhile, Tando's dad and the others who barricaded themselves are having trouble keeping the zombies out. But just when it looked like they were about to be overrun, Tando showed up to save the day.
There is still so much that he wants to do for his parents. Amid the chaos, Tendo grappled with a personal crisis. Despite his efforts at work, he never earned enough to support his family in the ways he desired. Unable to afford trips or even contemplate starting his own family due to his financial woes. His sense of duty and longing for redemption were palpable. He couldn't bear the thought of failing his parents to the extent of facing their graves with regrets. In a poignant exchange, his father, recognizing the gravity of the situation, implored Tendo to prioritize his own survival over an outdated sense of filial duty, urging him to protect his mother should the worst happen. The revelation of his father's strained marriage, marked by disillusionment and escape into solitary moments in his car, underscored a life filled with unfulfilled expectations and societal pressures. This reflection on his father's life and his own predicament highlighted a stark contrast between the life they lived and the brutal reality they now faced, emphasizing the urgent need to reassess values and priorities amidst the looming threat of the zombie horde. He was working himself to the bone for a family he didn't love or have any affection for. So now, he just wants to see some people die to feel better. Over in the field, Shizuka is still hiding in the brush to get away from the zombies. But she is found by something much worse than zombies. The reject that had beef with his barber. He stands over her drooling, and Shizuka has fear worse than death put in her by the side of his face. And things couldn't get much worse for her. Because what this guy wants to do most is to force his tongue down a girl's throat. Shizuka is not about to let herself involuntarily become a throat goat because of him, so she takes off running as fast as she can, and it is honestly surprising that the reject can keep up with her. This guy is so disappointing that even Discord had to reject his application to become a moderator. He used to work at a French restaurant, but he was too lazy to bother even learning French, and he didn't have any family members to kidnap, so Duolingo couldn't get to him either. Because of this, he was relegated to cleanup duty. But do you think he learned from his mistakes and finally tried learning? No, he chalked it up to everyone being mean for not speaking Japanese in a French restaurant. He decides to head outside and carelessly throws his cigarettes away in a kitchen full of flammable things, and you can see how that turned out. But do you think he took responsibility for what he did? No, it was their fault for putting the kitchen in a place where he would smoke. He lost his job after that, and it is still salty that they got mad at him for burning down the restaurant when it's not like he did anything wrong. He is a very dangerous man, maybe because he has a gun and a ridiculous amount of ammunition stuffed in his pockets. The old man, who mistook Shizuka for his wife, gets a sixth sense feeling that Shizuka is in some ugly bastard danger, so he gets up from his bed. Over by the water wheel, Beatrix is still fighting with the female reject and is keeping her at bay. But the sword she is using is chipping away under the force of a chainsaw. The reject tells Beatrix that she isn't that bad of a swordsman, but a katana isn't going to hold up against a chainsaw. Although the chainsaw has the drawback of being really loud and attracting zombies, she's going to have to finish this up quickly. Beatrix asks why she would be doing something so evil, but once again, this reject doesn't see anything wrong with what she is doing. Her whole she had always been a perfectionist, but because of her incessant nagging and butting where she really shouldn't, people didn't like her very much. And she didn't like that because she was always right, and everyone should acknowledge how right she is all the time. Ancho, who is on the edge of the roof and about to be pushed off, and after listening to this guy's sub-story, he is noticing a very distinct lack of effort ever actually put into maintaining the marriage on his part. The guy didn't even show up to the birth of his child, or even call in for that matter, and he still blames his wife for being upset about it. Kencho tells him that he can't just get mad at her for losing interest in his dumbass when he actively avoided interacting with her for several years after they got married. However, this guy wanted an echo chamber, not constructive criticism, so tries even harder to push Kencho off the roof so he doesn't have to listen to his facts. But Kencho spots the cesspit on the ground and turns the tables on the reject by pulling him off the roof along with himself. Once they are both on the ground, Kencho doesn't know if it's smell or body heat that the zombies are using to find them, but whatever it is, he is going to have to mask it, so he takes a leap of faith and dives headfirst into the cesspit to conceal himself from the zombies. Now, the reject is left to face the zombies that he helped release, and he doesn't make it far before he is stopped by the electric fence and subsequently eaten. Kencho later climbs out of the cesspit, and he is completely covered in shit. But what's important is that he is still a normal human covered in shit. But while Angie is grateful that he saved her, she wants him to stay far away from her until he has bait. Back in one of the houses, Old Man Hiko asks where Shizuka went, and the other old people explain that she is using herself as bait to save them from the zombies. So he asks what they are all still doing here then, and all they can say is that they are too old to move like they used to and probably wouldn't be able to save her even if they tried. Hiko tells them that they are just being weak and they have managed to survive this long through government reforms, typhoons, and earthquakes. So who cares about a little zombie apocalypse? In a moment fraught with tension, Shizuka faced a dire threat, only to be saved by the timely intervention of Old Man Hiko, whose precise shot disarmed the aggressor. The community rallied around Shizuka, the elderly residents collectively ensuring the perpetrator received his just desserts for menacing one of their own. Beatrix found herself embroiled in a futile debate, confronting the rigid mindset of an individual convinced of their soul correctness. Opting for a strategic retreat, she cleverly manipulated the situation, using the zombies' pursuit to her advantage. Her actions led to the destruction of a water wheel and the consequent unraveling of her adversary's psyche, who was left incapacitated and vulnerable to the encroaching zombie horde. Meanwhile, Tendo's father displayed a testament to his courage, stepping into harm's way to protect his son. His valiant efforts, however, were hampered by his declining health, casting a shadow of impending tragedy over his noble stand. This poignant moment showcased the depth of familial bonds and the harsh realities of their struggle for survival amidst the unfolding chaos. However, before he could get eaten, Higurashi shows up and pulls him to safety, only to immediately turn around and threaten to feed Tendo's dad to the zombies unless he comes out here and lets himself get zombified. Higurashi's life peaked all the way back in press school when he used to actually have fun. But as the years passed and he got into middle school, he gradually began to drift away from his friend group as his introverted tendencies began to develop. And by the end of the 3 years of middle school, he had gone the entire time without talking to a single person in his class. Come high school, he tried to change himself for the better by doing things to make himself more interesting. But none of that really worked out for him, as he remained the same empty and visionless weirdo that he had always been. Then one day he was walking through the college campus and saw Tendo having fun, and he took that personally. So here we are with Higurashi holding Tendo's father hostage unless he kills himself by zombification. Inside the house, Tendo can't just sit by and let his dad get killed, but at the same time his father yells at him not to dare open that door. If he opens that door and puts his mother in danger and then forces him to watch his own kid get himself killed, he will cease to be his son. Tendo still doesn't want to let his old man die, but his dad tells him it's not like he has much time left anyway. He is one of those bad growths in his body, and with the current state of the world, finding a doctor to treat him is going to be impossible, so sooner or later, it'll be too late for him. Tendo doesn't want to accept it and says they might get lucky and find a doctor if they look for one. And a vaccine for the zombie virus might be developed tomorrow for all they know, so they can't just give up hope. At this rate, he will never be able to show his gratitude to his parents, but his dad tells him to live his life, to help humanity by doing anything he can do. That is how he can give back to them even if they are gone, because nothing would make them happier than to look down from heaven and see him living his life the best possible. Tendo begins to have flashbacks about everything that has happened since he got here and outside. Higurashi is growing impatient since he hasn't opened the door yet even after so much time has passed. He thinks Tendo might have actually given up on saving his old man since he is going to die anyway. But all of a sudden, the door swings wide open, attracting the attention of the zombies and causing them to head into the house. Screams are heard, and then a zombified Tendo comes out of the house, making Higurashi laugh because he finally did what he wanted to do and turned Tendo into a zombie. Now, Tendo can't be happy anymore or do any of the things he wants to do because of his zombification, and Higurashi makes sure to laugh right in his zombie face about it. But in a turn of events, Tendo is not actually a zombie and pulls Higurashi off the bulldozer and onto the ground. Higurashi doesn't understand how Tendo is still having rational thoughts right now, but that is because he came up with a plan earlier to trick Higurashi. He asked the others for help and had the zombie makeup artist make him look like a zombie. And the next part of the plan was to make it look like Tendo got bitten by letting the zombies get in. But before the zombies could actually do anything to him, the girl snuck up from behind and clocked him across the head. Tendo breathes a sigh of relief now that the dangerous part is over and it's all up to his acting skills from here on out. As we've already seen, Higurashi fell for it and he is left baffled while Tendo and the others check on his dad. He can't believe his plan failed and cries over it. So Tendo turns to him and asks what he wanted to accomplish by doing this. He yells that he wanted to do whatever he wants, as it's so wrong for him to have fun for once. But even if that is what he says, Tendo points out that even when he thought he had accomplished his goal, he didn't look like he was having fun at all. He starts yelling again that of course he was having fun. But then he starts having a flashback back to the last time he actually had fun back when he was a kid. However, with all this previous yelling and him being distracted by his flashback, he fails to notice that a zombie is sneaking up on him, and by the time he does, it is too late and he has been bitten. He goes into a frenzy because he has just been hit with a death sentence from that bite and begins crying. The others want to leave since more zombies are on their way over here. But Tendo stays and asks Higurashi what was on his actual bucket list. What did he actually want to do? This sends him into another flashback where he sees his younger self by the pool having fun, and he realizes that all he ever wanted was to just have fun with his friends in a pool. Tendo tells him if that was all he wanted, then he could have just asked. We see another flashback of the moment Higurashi hated Tendo. And while Tendo was busy having fun, he noticed Higurashi standing behind and watching them. So he went up to him and asked if he would like to join them. But rather than take him up on the offer, Higurashi just ran away. If he had mentioned what he wanted sooner, they could have all become friends and made it happen. But with things as they are, he promises that if he ever does become a zombie, he will come back and have fun with him at a pool. Higurashi cries into his shoulder, realizing the mistakes he has made. But with his zombification progressing fast, he pushes Tendo away and runs off before he goes full zombie and attacks them. Tendo and the others leave to carry out their plan to escape the village and stop at the electric fence since they still have no way to get over it. Kancho and Angie meet up with him, but Tendo can barely recognize Kancho now that he is a walking biohazard. Shizuka and the rest of the villagers soon join them as well. But you'll meet everyone here if zombies are slowly closing in on their location and will soon be all around them. But they still have no means to escape. Luckily, they spot Beatrix rolling and who still has no way to get down from the wheel, so she comes up with the idea to just crash straight through the fence. Tendo tells everyone to back away for their safety, and once they are all clear, Beatrix busts through the wall with the wheel, and they all make a run for it through the forest. But as they get to the suspension bridge, which was their only way out of the village, they find that it has fallen. They were out of options since this was the only other way in or out of the village, but as luck would have it, Kumano just so happened to have been in the area to check out what all the commotion was and found that Gunma's bridge had fallen down. So he built them a new one as soon as he could and just in time, because the zombies are closing in. Tendo and Kancho grab one end of the bridge and yell for everyone to hurry and get across while they hold it up for them. And thanks to their efforts, everyone makes it across safely. So with everyone across, Tendo and Kancho grab onto both ends of the bridge and jump for it. It falls silent. So Beatrix and Shizuka go over to check whether they survived, and they are definitely fine, but their faces not so much. As Kancho and Tendo climb up the ladder, Kancho talks about how stupid Higurashi's actions were if his goal was just to make friends in the end. But Tendo doesn't think it's that simple. Back when he was a company slave, he had lost sight of who he was and what he truly wanted, so he easily could have fallen down the same pit of despair that Higurashi did. For that reason, despite everything he did, he can't hate Higurashi. Tendo, finally, makes it to the top of the ladder and his father is standing there to give him a hand up, saying it is all thanks to Tendo that they made it out, and he is proud of Tendo. The next day, the villagers lure all the zombies out of the village and reseal the tunnel to stop any more from coming in. In the aftermath of the crisis, the villagers, with newfound determination fueled by Kamano's leadership, embarked on a mission to restore their beloved village. Their resolve to rebuild symbolized not just the reconstruction of physical structures, but the rekindling of communal spirit and hope. Tom's heartfelt acknowledgement of Shizuka's pivotal role highlighted her impact. Her medical knowledge, though self-taught, proved crucial in their darkest hours, underscoring the idea that heroism can manifest in various forms, transcending official titles or roles. Kancho, too, received gratitude for his emotional support to Angie, illustrating how compassion and empathy are vital in fostering resilience and restoring hope amidst despair. In a poignant family moment, Tendo learned of his father's deep-seated concerns for him, extending beyond the immediate zombie threat to a more profound worry stemming from Tendo's prolonged absence. This revelation prompted Tendo to vow to protect his family and village, symbolizing his commitment to his roots and loved ones. The revelation of his father's ailment as hemorrhoids, rather than a more severe condition, introduced an unexpected, lighter note to the narrative, juxtaposing the gravity of their situation with the mundanity and unpredictability of life's challenges. Despite the seemingly trivial nature of hemorrhoids, Tendo's father's reluctance to seek medical intervention underscored his stubbornness, a trait that both frustrated and endeared him to his family. Tendo, inspired by his father's tenacity and his own desire to make a significant impact, resolved to embark on an ambitious quest to find a cure for the zombie virus, intertwining this grand mission with a personal vow to address his father's health issue. The revelation of Tendo's bold plan ignited a spark of approval in his father, fostering a moment of unity and shared aspiration. This newfound purpose galvanized Tendo and his companions, prompting them to contemplate and voice their own dreams, enriching their collective narrative with a mosaic of individual goals and desires. As the group prepared to venture forth from the village, the enduring bond between mother and son was poignantly highlighted through the simple, yet profound, act of providing Tendo with ample food for his journey. This gesture, steeped in maternal care, underscored the enduring human connections that persist, even in a world ravaged by apocalypse, anchoring the group's lofty ambitions in the fundamental values of family and community. The villagers wave them off as they go on their journey to find a cure, and the group heads off to do just that while having fun along the way. That's the end of the movie. Thank you for watching.